It is now my pleasure to introduce another phenomenal industry leader, good friend, and advisor to BitGive, Pamela Morgan. Pamela and I also met very early on in the days of this industry, and she's been a longtime supporter of BitGive and our work ever since. Pamela is the founder and CEO of Empowered Law, as well as the founder of Third Key Solutions. She is an educator and entrepreneur, author, and attorney, if you can imagine that. Pamela is here today to talk about inheritance planning and leaving a legacy to be proud of, to be remembered as a philanthropist, even if you don't yet consider yourself one. Welcome, Pamela.
Thank you so much, Connie. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here, and I am so excited that you're having this conference. I know that I'm in excellent company with all of the other speakers here, and I'm thrilled to be here and be supporting BitGive and its mission.
Thank you. It's an honor. Well, we have lots to learn from you today.
Well, I'm excited to talk about my favorite subject, which is, death and inheritance planning and cryptocurrencies. So I hope that everyone else is excited. I promise it won't be super boring, and I won't be talking all legalese the entire time. I'm not sure if you can see my slides. Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so you see the first slide. Today, I do want to talk to you about leaving your legacy. And what does that actually mean? And what are the options when it comes to cryptocurrencies, crypto assets, and creating a legacy for ourselves? One thing I want to note before I get into this is you'll see the little symbol CC by SA on the left corner of the slide. And what that means is that all of my material is shared under a Creative Commons license. That is fairly atypical for lawyers, but I do share it under a Creative Commons share-alike license, which means that you can use these slides, you can make derivatives of them, you can do whatever you like, basically, and you don't need to ask permission as long as you share the work that you make from these slides with the rest of the community. That's all you need to do, and give attribution. You can find me at empoweredlaw.com, and let's get started. What I'd like you to think about is, what is your legacy? What is it that you intend to leave to your loved ones? So how many people can you name on these slides? This is a rhetorical question. You don't actually have to answer out loud, although you can and make your whole family jealous since they'll hear you shouting out names. So the idea is that all of these people have committed to giving the majority of their wealth to charity. In fact, Mrs. Jobs decided that the billionaire status is going to stop with her. And so she's decided to give, again, the majority of her legacy to charity. One of the main reasons why people choose to give to charity is because they don't want their kids to grow up to be jerks. Hopefully you don't know any jerky trust fund kids. Maybe you are one. No, of course you're not. You're great. You're here. But there's a lot of fear with people when they're giving their children a lot of wealth, that what that will encourage them to do is be lazy, or maybe not treat other people as we might want them to treat other people. So I'd like for you to consider, what would it be like if you gave part of your legacy to charity? What would that look like for you? Some of you might know this guy. If you do, keep his name quiet. Don't put it in the chat if you guys are chatting. And if you don't, I want you to remember his face. No matter what, we're going to come back to this guy, and we're going to talk about why you don't want to be like this guy. I want you to remember that you will leave a legacy. That's the good news. The good news is that you will leave a legacy. The question is, what kind of legacy are you going to leave? So a few things about me. Connie did a great intro, so I'm not going to go into all of this. And this is my busiest slide. So forgive all of the words and everything there. But for those of you who are wondering, why is she up there talking about inheritance planning? I thought I would give you some credentials. I've been in the industry full time since 2014, early 2014. I love it. And I'm a technologist as well as a lawyer. I have an undergraduate degree in computer programming. And so that was one of the things that really drew me into this industry. And as I began working in this industry, I started realizing more and more that there is so much opportunity here. And I kind of fell into doing inheritance planning when I was helping people build corporate plans. And I would ask them, okay, well, how much of your net worth is in Bitcoin? And they would look at me as if I had 5 heads, and they would go, all of it. And then I would say, oh, okay, well, do you have anyone who depends on you? Do you have anyone who relies on you for financial support? And many of them said, yeah, you know, I've got a significant other, I've got kids, I've got parents who need me. And so then the question is, okay, well, how are they going to access your cryptocurrencies? How are they going to access your Bitcoin if something happens to you? And they would get this giant look and be like, I don't know. And that's how I ended up working in this specific area of the industry. And for years now, I've helped people build inheritance plans. And hopefully today, I'm going to get you started on your own inheritance plan if you haven't already started on one. So first, we're going to talk about why plan. Then we're going to talk about how to build your own plan. And then we're going to talk about making it legal. And I'm happy to take questions if we have time. I've written a book called Cryptoasset Inheritance Planning. It is the #1 book about cryptoasset inheritance planning because it's the only book about cryptoasset inheritance planning. As you know, our industry is very small. And while there are other lawyers now who are working in this space, you know, there's very little written information about it. I wrote this book specifically as a guide for owners so that I don't scale. So I needed something that would allow people who had cryptocurrency to make a good plan for themselves for their unique situations. And so that's why I wrote the book. If you want to see more about it, you can visit bit.ly/cryptoinheritance. All right. Yes, there is a quiz. Don't worry, you can't get any of the answers wrong. There's no such thing as a wrong answer. We just learn. So quiz question #1. If you die without a will, or sometimes it's called a testament or a trust, who decides who gets what? So A, B, or C? The correct answer is C. Local government, your local law or your government will decide who gets what. This problem of inheritance planning has been a real problem, well, ever since people started owning property. The question is, if I don't say who I want to inherit my assets, then what happens to them? Is it just the person who's the strongest? Is it the person in the family who's the fastest and gets there and pillages everything? No. Local law sets down rules to help to prevent fighting and infighting amongst heirs. And so there are laws in every jurisdiction about what's called intestacy. Intestacy law is what happens when someone dies without a will or a trust. You don't need to know that word. Really, you just need to understand that it's not a good situation. And here's why. Question #2. Who will get part of your estate if you die without a plan? I'll give you time to read these. The correct answer is none of the above. So your live-in partner, if you're not registered with a state, your children through marriage will not get anything. Your best friend, your pet will not get anything. And pets have sometimes unfortunate things happen to them after their owners die. Your favorite charity or school, they get nothing. So how the intestacy laws work is they're old-timey. They're based on blood relations. And so if you die without a plan, your legacy will be as follows. Blood relatives will be who inherits aside from your spouse, if you have one. So only blood relatives or your spouse, not your ex-spouse, not your stepchildren, not anyone, not your family by choice, but your family by blood. Typically, best case scenario, according to the American Bar Association, is 6 to 8 months in court. That's the best case scenario. Worst case scenario is years and years and years and years, and the lawyers pretty much get everything. Third, your legacy will be, you will be leaving other people to clean up your mess. And hopefully you don't want to do that to your family. Fourth, there are unknown tax burdens. So I'm going to talk very briefly in a little bit about taxes, but there are some really cool ways that you can do tax planning to minimize your taxes. So we're not talking about, not declaring. What we're talking about is the strategies that allow you to pay less taxes, but you're still following the law. If you don't have a plan, we don't know what your tax burdens are going to be. And so your family is going to find out, unfortunately for them, when the time comes. And finally, and for me, this is kind of the biggest issue, is resentment and fighting amongst your heirs. Death, grief brings out, and money bring out the worst in people. And while you might be sitting here right now thinking, no way, not my family's not going to fight. I hope that that is true. I really hope that that is true. But the reality is most people who think that their families are not going to fight, there does end up to be a fight, and it can get ugly. So here are some signs that your family is going to fight over your estate. Number one is specifically economic disparity amongst heirs. So for example, if you have 3 children and one of them is doing phenomenally well financially and the other 2 are not, that can definitely cause fighting for your estate. Undue influence. So maybe your child married someone who you're not exactly thrilled with. Maybe you think that they have different values than you, or maybe you think that that they're exhibiting undue influence over this person. That could cause them to try to fight. And finally, illnesses, whether they be physical, mental, or substance abuse. And a lot of times when people are dealing with grief, they turn to substances. And so while this current situation might be that your family would be fine without you doing any planning, the reality is that they won't be, and they certainly won't be if you have crypto assets. No matter how well your family gets along, unless you have a plan for your Bitcoin, for your Ether, they will not be able to inherit it. So why don't we plan? If we know we can plan, why don't we plan? I hear so many objections, as they call it in sales, objections to why don't we plan? Number one, of course, even though I am a lawyer, people are like, I don't want to hire a lawyer. No. In fact, my lawyer doesn't even know about cryptocurrencies. So the reality is your lawyer doesn't have to know about cryptocurrencies in order for you to start doing your technical plan today. You don't actually have to hire a lawyer. There are times when it is good to hire a lawyer. And in my book, I actually talk about how to find a lawyer, how to hire a lawyer, and then also how to fire a lawyer. So for those of you who are not huge fans of lawyers, you may want to read that section. Second most common mistaken belief is that you'll have to trust a third party. So a lot of times people think that inheritance planning means handing over your keys to a third party, typically a lawyer or an accountant or something. Absolutely not. You would not ever hand over your keys to a third party. You may decide to partially trust a third party with, for example, a multi-signature solution or Shamir's secret share solution, but it is not part of your inheritance planning. It's not a requirement that you have to trust a third party. Third, many people think if they sit down and plan, it's actually going to increase the likelihood that they're going to get their Bitcoin stolen. And not only is that not true, but it's actually the opposite. So it's much more likely that your Bitcoin will be more secure if you do plan. And I'm going to go into that in a moment. And finally, the last objection I hear often is, well, I don't have enough. It's not really worth it for me to plan. I only have a little bit. And, as we see, we're currently in the middle of what they call a bull run, meaning that the price is going up pretty fast. And so for those of you who, had Bitcoin last year, you have seen your net worth expand quite a bit if you're holding a lot of Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies that have grown in value. Okay, so remember the photograph that we saw at the very beginning of the presentation? This is Matthew Mellon, and you don't want to be like Matthew. The reason you don't want to be like Matthew is because he passed away unexpectedly. And he had invested about $2 million into cryptocurrencies. and he was very concerned about security. And so apparently what he did was he created this elaborate backup scheme, and he hid different pieces of his cryptocurrency seeds in different places all around the US in safety deposit boxes. Unfortunately, he did not make a plan for how his family would be able to access that after he passed. And so as of today, I believe that the family still has not been able to access those assets. And we're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of at least 5 million. And, you know, family members who know that you have cryptocurrency, as Matthew Mellon's family does, they don't typically just go, oh, well, we can't get the crypto, especially when it's a high value. Instead, they search and search and search and search and try to find anything that looks like keys, and try and find anyone who can help them access it. And so, you know, it's likely that Matthew Mellon's family has gone on a multi-year search trying to find this. And whether or not they find it, it's still hopefully not the kind of legacy that you would want to leave for your family. So planning is good for you and for them. It actually results in you having better security because you will consolidate the cryptocurrency that you have. It'll also make sure that you have your backups, that you'll actually be able to access them because you're going to check and make sure. It's also good because it gives you that good feeling, like you've done something good. You've helped someone else, whether it's your family, whether it's you're giving to a charity, whatever it is, you've done something great. Planning allows you to be in control. And for a lot of people in our industry, that's a big deal, right? If you don't want the local government or the local law telling you or telling your family who gets what, then you have to do a plan. Also, the benefits are tax planning and peace of mind. So what I mean by that is peace amongst your family, hopefully, and peace of mind that you know that you've done everything that you can do to make sure that, you know, the time that your family is missing you the most, they're not also trying to go on a wild goose chase. So where do we start? I have, aside from my book, I also have some free resources. And we're going to start today by talking about a technical plan. Now, all good plans for cryptocurrencies have a technical side and a legal side. But today I want to talk about the technical side. Why? Well, because you can do that today. You can get started right now. I want you to remember that perfection is an illusion. A lot of times we don't plan because we say, hey, you know, I don't have everything together. I'm not exactly sure what I want to do for my plan. So I'm just going to put it off and put it off and put it off. And it goes to the very bottom of your to-do list. And then it never happens. So something today is better than nothing today. This is a super important point. And I want to give you a second to take it in. Perhaps you prefer it in yellow or white or yellow or white. Do you get the point? Your loved ones do not have your level of technical knowledge. If you are the crypto guru in your family, they do not have your level of technical knowledge. You will not be able to leave them just a key and say, okay, here, go and recover my ledger and make sure that you don't spend any of it, but liquidate this asset and then keep that. No, they have no idea what you're talking about. A lot of times people tell me that, don't worry, I've explained all of this to my loved ones. Okay. And so what typically happens in this scenario is they realize that you are not going to shut up until they fake like they got it. So they'll start out and be like, no, I don't get it. And then you get to a point where they're like, oh no, this is never going to end. And so they start going, yeah, yeah, oh, totally, I got it. But in reality, they didn't get it. They didn't get it. So don't rely on your loved ones unless they're equally into crypto as you are. Don't rely on them. Don't put that burden on them to try and figure out how they should access these assets while they're grieving from a thing that you told them a year ago. Instead, Try starting with a letter to loved ones. And this is a free template that's available on my website. It's already written. You don't have to keep the language, change it any way you want. The template is just a place for you to start. And all it says is basically, hey, if you're reading this, it's because I want you to know that I have crypto assets. And it's really dangerous if you let other people help. And here are the people who I think might be able to help you in this. It's just a guide, but it's a very helpful guide. And if you do this today, you'll have a great head start on doing your crypto asset inheritance planning. You should think about who's going to be around to help your loved ones. Again, you can't rely on what you told them. You need to make sure that they actually have someone to call. Who's going to be their person? Because you were their person, right? So who's going to be their person now? So you should think about that. And if you don't have any people, maybe in the back of your mind, start to interview some people like, ooh, who might be good for that? You also could do a cryptocurrency inventory. And I think that this is really important because this will help to make sure that your family doesn't throw away your keys. You want to kind of give them a little bit of a roadmap. So for example, if you have a Trezor and you leave just the seed of the Trezor, how am I supposed to know if I'm helping your family? How am I supposed to know what assets you have on that Trezor? I'm going to have to go through every single derivation path on that Trezor and see what assets you might have. How do I know if maybe you're holding keys, but Trezor doesn't support that coin anymore, or maybe the coin has changed? You know, there's a lot of different aspects to actually recovering these things. And so it's very, very helpful for your family to know what wallet you were using, what date it is, what assets they should be looking for, not the quantity, just the assets, right? The name of the assets. You want to make sure that they can actually keep the keys. That's super important. You don't want to give your cousin, right? You don't want them to give your cousin your phone that had your mobile wallet on it, and then they wipe it, and now your keys are gone, and now your Bitcoin's gone off of your phone. So today, the two resources that I gave you were the letter to loved ones and the inventory. And by doing those, you can start your crypto asset inheritance plan today. And when you go through the steps in the book, we start out with get it done, which is basically just get something on paper, just make something happen. And then you make it better, and then you make it legal, and then you keep it fresh. And so I'm going to jump straight into make it legal, because this is directly related to charitable giving. So in order to make it legal, you're going to need to either build a will or a trust. You're going to need to do something, right? You have to take action. So you need to ask yourself, who do I want to give what to? Who do you care about? And remember, a will is certainly a will. A trust is a bit more difficult to change sometimes, but a will, in many jurisdictions, you can write your own. Those are called holographic wills. And you can look that up, you can Google it, or you can DuckDuckGo it, which is what I prefer. But basically you can look up and see, is a holographic will legal in my jurisdiction, and what are the requirements for it? And that's a will where you just handwrite yourself. Many, many, many people in the cryptocurrency industry are now thinking about taxes and what can they do to minimize their taxes. And there are a number of different strategies that you can use along with charitable giving in order to minimize your taxes. Caveat, I am not a tax attorney, so you should definitely find a tax attorney in your jurisdiction if you want to do this. But here are 4 ways that people are doing this today. So the first is they're gifting appreciated crypto and taking a tax deduction. So the benefit of that is in some jurisdictions, if you gift the crypto and you had a low cost basis, but today the value is high, you actually get to deduct today's market value from your income as a charitable deduction. So that can be a huge benefit to you if you've had a year where you've made a lot of profits and you're looking to offset those profits with some losses, and you actually get to give to charity, which is great. Secondly, you can name your charity as a beneficiary for your exchange account. So very few exchange accounts now have the option to name a beneficiary, but a very few do. And I think more and more they will. And so if your exchange has the option to do that, you can name a charity instead of, your spouse or your child, and they will automatically get the contents of that exchange account when something happens to you. Finally, you can do charitable gifts in your will or your trust. So you can, decide not to give something now, but give something later and designate. Often people do at least 10% of their net worth to a charity. Some people are much more generous, but 10% is a good stable number. And finally, you can do charitable remainder trusts. And this is a very complex area of law. But for those of you who live in the US and you are trying to, you have more than the $11.6 million that is currently the exempt estate tax, if you have well above that, some people are creating charitable remainder trusts, which basically takes those assets out of your control. It takes it out of your estate. You're able to use them during your lifetime, but when you pass, all of the property that's in that trust goes to a charity. Again, this is super jurisdiction specific and it's super situationally specific, meaning that what's right for someone else may or may not be right for you, and you do need to talk to somebody who's a professional. But these are all things that people are doing right now as a way to give back to others the benefits that they've gotten from cryptocurrency. So I just want to remind you that you will leave a legacy. Do you want to be the people who are leaving a legacy to charity and helping the world and helping humanity? Or do you want to leave a legacy that's more like Matthew? I think you know the answer. The question is, what legacy will you leave? So hopefully I've convinced you today to start your plan. If you're in the middle of this amazing conference, I know you do not have time to start your plan right this second. So what I would like you to do is take a second right now, go to your calendar, go to your scheduling, go to your to-do list, and add an item that says, I'm going to do my crypto asset letter to loved ones. I'm going to do my crypto asset inventory. I'm going to take one step. Put it on your calendar, get it on there today, and believe me when I tell you, your family will be so appreciative that you did this for them. And that's the end of my presentation. You can reach me at empoweredlaw.com. Again, my name is Pamela Morgan. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Thank you so much, Pamela. Such fascinating information you have. And I think, it's a topic that many people haven't even thought about, and certainly haven't really done much about. And what a unfortunate story with Matthew Mellon. I mean,
absolutely. Well, and if there's one benefit that can come from it, it's that I can use his story to get other people to actually do something.
Yes. Yeah, I hadn't heard that story. I knew that he had invested quite a bit of money and that he had unexpectedly passed. And I didn't hear the story about how he had stored different pieces of his private keys across the country.
I've linked to it actually in my presentation. So if you guys want to learn more about it, a lot of my slides have links. So you're welcome to take a look at them and click through. But yeah, it's actually incredibly sad. And, one thing I didn't get to tell the audience is that I've had people who have come to me and said, look, I know my loved one had cryptocurrency. In fact, some of them even know the addresses. And so they can actually see the Bitcoin on the blockchain. They just can't move it. And so basically it taunts them. They're like, I'm going to watch it all the time and I'm going to make sure that it doesn't move because maybe somebody stole the key from me. And it can make them crazy because they're like, okay, I know that I should have this asset, right? And for so many people, this is life-changing money. This is life-changing. And so, I really can't encourage more. Please put it on your calendar. Your family and loved ones will so appreciate that you did it. And you'll feel good about it too.
Yes. And I think even for our audience that's not, crypto asset owners, it's it's a lesson as well that we really have to think about the unexpected, plan for the unexpected, make sure that things are taken care of and that our loved ones have access to them. We do have one question. Well, I guess now there's two. Let's see. One is Paul is asking, is there any work being done on trust planning via blockchain and smart contracts?
Yes. So there are a number of different smart contract platforms that are attempting to do transfer of assets. I am not a technophobe. I love smart contracts. However, I would caution you against that. And the main reason why I would caution you against, I mean, I don't let any of my clients do it. The reason is because the technology isn't mature enough. So right now, you know, if you're looking at the other DeFi, the FI, not the PHI, you see that, you know, DeFi contracts are getting hacked all the time. There are losses all the time. And it's not because the smart contract developers aren't good, and it's not because they're not trying, and it's not because they're hacks. It's because the technology is new and we're still learning. And the thing about estate planning is that it's long-term, right? So a smart contract is great for an atomic swap, you know, something short-term, something quick, something easy. But for long-term planning, when we're talking years, I really don't think that the technology is there yet to trust these platforms. Also, many of them are third-party intermediaries. So they're providing you this smart contract service for a price. And what they're actually doing is putting themselves in the middle. And so you have to rely on them to be around. You have to rely on their platform. And it's not there yet. It doesn't mean that it won't be. And it doesn't mean that there aren't really cool ways of doing time locks. You know, you can time lock your Bitcoin right now. You can do threshold multi-signature where you have, you know, a certain time lock for 90 days. And then if a year and a half has passed, you only need this one key to unlock it. But within within this year, you need 2 out of these 3 keys to unlock it. There's a lot of really cool planning that you can do from a technical perspective that has to do with kind of locking and unlocking of funds. But also remember that that's not the whole thing. You still have the person aspect of it. You still have the humanity aspect of it. So you have to think about how is your family going to contact these people? How are they actually going to walk through the plan? So it's not just about having a technical solution. It's also about having a human solution that can help your family when they need it.
Absolutely. Wow. It's amazing to think about all that could be possible. And I definitely, want to underscore your point that it's possible and the potential is there, but very important things. And so we have to think about, where is the technology today? Are we putting our trust in a startup that might not get their next round of VC funding or whatever?
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, really, it's important to think about the longevity as well. So we have one other comment from Phil. He says, big fan of your work. Thanks for this.
Thank you.
And I think that's all the questions. Brittany, do you have anything that came in on Slack? I'm not seeing.
Nope, nothing from Slack today.
Okay, great.
Great. So that means I answered all the questions, which means that every single person watching right now is going to have an inheritance plan by the end of this weekend, right? I can't hold you to it. I know.
Why not? I mean, at least in California, they've restricted us again back to what they're calling code purple for COVID. So we'll all be staying home.
Exactly. You don't have anything else to do, friends. Just go to Empowered Law, get the templates, go make it happen.
Awesome.
Connie, thank you for having me. Thank you so, so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's an honor to have you. I'm so excited to see you. It's wonderful to see you, and really appreciate your, customized message around charity and inheritance planning with that. And just always appreciate your unique knowledge base and experience. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Connie. Hopefully we'll see each other soon.
I hope so.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.